The following is a Just Green production brought to you by the Might Be News Network.
Hello, this is Joe Frantz here for the Novak and Frantz show. Say hello, Brandon Novak.
Hello, Brandon Novak.
Oh, man.
You asked.
I can't believe it.
I gave.
I'm here with CJ Schumard.
How's it going?
And the show's producer and the president of the Might Be News Network, Taylor Cooper.
What's up, everybody?
So let's go big with this. I'm going to read you a headline, everybody. This is from thephillyvoice.com. Bam Margera's family has Jackass star committed to a behavioral health facility. This will be the former pro skateboarder's second shot at rehab in the last 3 months. Bam Margera has been committed to a behavioral health facility by his friends and family. The news comes days after Margera published Instagram posts insulting his wife. Footage later surfaced of him threatening his manager. I'm going to stop there. The article goes on. I'm sure that those of you who are listening to this know the story that we're referring to. Yes, Bam is currently in an institution of mental and behavioral health. So today we're going to go into all the details about that, and I'm going to visit a timeline of Bam's life, starting with his childhood and beginning when he started drinking, evolving to when he started drinking heavily. The first time we had an intervention with him back in 2007, and we're really going to get into this.
And I don't want it to come across as like we're being nosy and meddling into his business and like we're trying to put everything out there and expose him. That's what I am trying to do, actually put it out there and expose him. But for the hopes that people, anyone out there, stops enabling, justifying, or condoning his behaviors, contributing to them, right? Like when a disease is unexposed, it runs rampant. Right, it spreads all throughout your body, and then as soon as they diagnose it, it's exposed. Light is shed onto it. It starts to like die. It continues to suppress and not be able to grow like it would if it were unrecognized or unannounced. So this is simply my way, and I believe Franz's as well, is kind of exposing this sickness for someone that's such a public figure to God willing hope that people will see the reality for what it really is and realize that, like, hey, maybe it's not cool to contribute or condone his outrageous or outlandish behaviors or antics. Maybe it's not like a great idea to go have some drinks with this guy.
And the other part of the reason we're doing this is because this article has been published. It's now a matter of public record that Bam is in this institution, and there's so many rumors flying around. I would like to set the record straight. This is also a story not only about Bam, but about friendship and what friends do for each other and how to care for your family member or your friend without enabling them. I look at this as a lesson that all the listeners could really learn from, because I'm sure that a lot of you who know Bam's career have always looked up to him, and you've grown up with his brand of humor. And there's always a darker side that you haven't seen. And I think that although his story is very unique, it is very commonplace. He, as famous as he is, as much notoriety as he has, as much as a celebrity status that he has risen to, his story is just like everyone else who has a drug and alcohol addiction problem coupled by emotional and behavioral health issues. So let's get into this. When I met Bam, he was not drinking. It was in the late 1990s. It was on the tail end of CKY2K, and I came in to produce and shoot music videos for CKY and the CKY video series. And Bam was not drinking at the time. He looked down on people who drank. He referred to them as losers, and he would laugh at people who were drinking in a somewhat of in a derogatory way, not because he thought it was funny. I remember the first time Rab himself got drunk, Bam punched him in the face. He was furious and enraged that he felt that Rab had betrayed some kind of pact that they had made to not drink. As time went on, when he turned 21, we all of a sudden, for some reason, started going to the bars. And we would go to, 15 North and Jitters and Rex's in Westchester. And he started drinking, and he thought it was really cool. There's a line in Haggard, in the movie Haggard that we made back in 2001, where Bam orders a drink from the bartender. He says, "Fill it to the rim with pure alcohol." And somehow in his mind, now drinking was something that adults would do. And for some reason, it seemed cool to him. As time went on and we began to, I would produce and he would direct the music videos for him and CKY. And we did a lot of traveling for that. And he was drinking, but he didn't have any anger issues. He was not an angry drunk. He was not an angry person. Being a director and having a lot of people who would basically do whatever he told them to do, he had a lot of power over other people. And like any young person who is given a great deal of power, at times he could be a bit domineering, but never mean-spirited. And it was around 2004 when a darker side of him emerged. He did, and again, I'm not saying any facts that are not a matter of public record. His family has talked about he had issues with bulimia. He would struggle to keep his weight down to look thin on camera because the camera does add 10 to 20 pounds to you. And plus, being a professional skater, he had to stay thin. I remember when we did an episode of Viva La Bam, and Bam went and he had some pizza. It was about half a piece of pizza, and he threw it up. And Tony Hawk was there. He said, "Hey, Bam." I looked at Tony, and Tony looked at me. And Tony got a worrisome look in his face. And he said, "Hey, Bam, you bulimic?" Just like that. And Bam said, No, I just throw up whenever I eat. And Tony said, "Yeah, man, that's bulimia. You got to get help." Just like that. And Bam shrugged it off. And so it was around that time, 2004, when he started to become angry when he drank. And to this day, I don't understand why. I don't know, maybe, we all have hidden psychological disorders, I believe. Maybe that was part of it. I don't know. But when he and Jen Ravel broke up, the party started. Brandon, you recall that.
Yeah, he was just basically looking for an escape. What I recall is, Bam was the guy that was my saving grace, right? Like I was a skateboarder that predominantly I won or he won the contest that we would enter yearly, and we practiced for each other to go against each other at that contest. And then one year I just didn't show up. And what happened was I became a full-fledged drug addict. And I remember he asked my buddy Bucky, he said, "Where's Novak?" And Bucky said, "He's on heroin." And Bam said, "What's that?" Right? So I'm painting you this picture to show you how disconnected he was from any kind of drug addict, alcoholic way of life or being. Fast forward a few years down the road, I become like really bad off, homeless, jails, institutions, deaths, overdoses, wash, rinse, repeat. Can't get it together. And then Bam offers his hand, right? His helping hand. I go into a skate shop and I try to get some money from them. And they say, "We're not going to give you any money, but Bam was here the day before and he was doing a demo. He asked if we had seen you, and we said yes. And we say that you come in here occasionally looking for money and you're not doing well. And he said, here's my number. Give it to him next time you see him. Fast forward to the next day, I go in, ask for some money. They say no. They hand me his phone number. A few days pass, and then finally I go to this payphone that I use occasionally, and I use it. I pick it up, I call him, and he answers. I get through to him, and he says, hey, why don't you let me help you get your life back on track? Why don't you move up here with me to Westchester? You get off heroin. You can live with me. We'll skate every day. We'll film every day. You will become like really productive again, and we'll help each other out. And I took him up on that offer. And at the time, I really wanted to stop. But I didn't understand the disease from which I suffered from. So I thought if I physically just put down the heroin and I moved to Westchester, things had to get better. I didn't understand at that point in time that I couldn't shake my shadow, that I took me with me everywhere I go, that the drugs were not the problem, they were the solution. My problem was my thinking, my attitude, my behavior. So I went up to Westchester, and that pattern continued there.
You and Bam, although he dissuaded you from doing drugs and you would do them behind his back, he would drink with you.
Yeah.
How
fucking calm down, Franz. I'm getting to that goddamn point.
I'm sorry.
See, now you want to direct shit.
Oh, boy. Wow.
God. But I would come up there, and now he had hit this peak in his career of he was a very successful skateboarder. He was doing the Boom Boom Huck Jam with Tony Hawk and Colin McKay and all those guys. He had a beautiful girlfriend, Jen Ravel. She was older. She had a really cool place in town. And it's a very similar story as to mine almost, but the kids that were really cool in high school, that Bam wasn't a part of that crowd, was now inviting him to their house parties. We would go swim in his first ex-wife, Missy's his ex-wife's home with all those high school kids that were really cool at that point in time. We were now invited over there, and we were like welcomed, and we started drinking with them. I, of course, looked for any excuse to drink, but Bam would start to drink because like it was his rite of passage. And now he was a very successful skateboarder, and people looked at him in a different way. And the CKY videos had been made, and he was at a different status all around, financially, professionally. People just looked at him different, and that thing that was the thing that was like not cool, that was not condoned, was not welcomed, which was like drugs and alcohol, because we had a one-track mind, which was to skate, to be productive, to be successful. All of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, Bam has been productive at all those things he set forth to be productive and be successful at. Now he's successful.
I mean, he was making, at that point, he began to double the salary of his friend's parents. That's a big deal for a 21-year-old kid. I mean, to realize, like, to go over his friends' houses and look at the parents and look at them and say, I make twice as much as these people.
Yeah.
Look at this, I'm pulling up here with a Ferrari and I have all this, but I have to say, I don't believe he let the fame really go to his head. It was never... I'd never felt that he thought he was better than anyone else. He actually suffered from a low self-esteem.
Yeah, I don't think he was better than anyone else. I don't think he thought that ever. No. And I agree with you. He suffered from really low self-esteem. And that's where I think the problem lied. Pair the low self-esteem, never really feeling accepted, to all of a sudden stardom, fame, and now people perceiving him different. Now he's accepted to every high school party. He's accepted to every keg party, to every pool party.
All the people in town who were mean to him in high school and didn't want to have anything to do with him, they wouldn't give him the time of day. Like the girls who literally would not give him the time of day were begging for him to, accompany them in sexual escapades.
Now they're idolizing him.
Yeah, and all of the guys who would pick on him are now kissing his ass.
Yeah,
and so he would go into the bar and look around at all these people who were cheering him on.
Bam's the
And
man.
one of the-
Yeah, Bam's here.
And in the back of his mind, you got to understand, he's thinking, these people never gave a fuck about me before I was famous. And I think that's really got to have an affect on your psychology that can't be measured. It's like, wow, the only reason people like me is because I'm famous. And that has to do something to your sense of self-worth, your self-esteem, all that stuff. And I noticed that so at that same time, he began to get angry. And so the people
And now follow, at that time, at that point in his life, he makes the rules. He sets the guidelines. Why? Because to this point, he's been successful, right? He's been overly successful.
Mm-hmm.
So like, why would he take heed to what other people tell him? Because he hasn't done that to this point, and look where it's gotten him.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't hurt him. It's helped him tremendously. So now, like, he makes his rules. He creates the life that not only he lives in, but people around him live in, because people depend on him. They rely on him.
Yeah.
They want to be part of his life.
Yeah. And he did a great deal for me. I mean, prior to meeting him, I made really good money. I was working at an ad agency, but I was extremely unhappy. I was just, the work that I was producing was terrible. I mean, they were, I had a lot of fun. I was working with my friends, but when I started working with Bam, I felt like an artist. I felt like I was creating something worthwhile, and that, this whole wave of entertainment that was embraced by people all over the world. And it was incredible. And so, he had that kind of power to do a lot for the CKY crew. It's like he blew up his friends into international fame. And so when him and Jen broke up, something happened in him. Like I believe,
again, I think what it was, now thinking back about it, is everything that I said he hated so much before was not being accepted, not being welcomed, not being invited, not being with the cool kids, right? Jen was older. She was really hot. He loved her, loves a crazy fucking thing. All of a sudden she leaves. That's rejection again. That kind of takes us back to that childhood thing of not being invited. And now she's like doing other things with other people. Fuck, I gotta like feel better about the situation that I'm in. And I don't want to address my feelings because they hurt. So I go to the bar.
And there's something else. There's another tentacle to that octopus. And that is, society imposes a very sick and unhealthy idea as to what fame is. Society and Hollywood, that machine, that Hollywood machine tells you that a sign of success is going out and having, crazy sex with complete strangers, which is a very unhealthy act. To be able to drink, to be able to do cocaine, to be able to flaunt your wealth, and that is it's. And I don't want to get. I'm not talking about from an immorality standpoint, although it is very immoral. It's just a very unhealthy lifestyle to think that to be successful, you have to flaunt your wealth, have sex with strangers, do cocaine, waste all your money on fancy automobiles just to impress people.
So then you pair that terminology, that way of life, that thinking that you've conditioned yourself to because you've become that celebrity, with the kind of celebrity Bam is, right? And Bam's a celebrity from Jackass. And what Jackass warrants, right? What that lifestyle warrants is that the more outlandish and the more outrageous your behaviors are, the more in demand you become, which means the higher your ratings go, which means the more money you make, the more in demand you just simply are all the way around the board. And with that, and I remember him and I really coming up with this together a lot and believing in it, that any press was good press, right? So whatever, you're going to remember me, we're going to make a statement, and you're going to talk about me, good, bad, or indifferent. As long as you're talking about me, we win. That was kind of the mentality that we had. And again, paired with Jackass,
Well, he's in a situation now in the mid 2000s, he's being rewarded for
Yes.
acting outrageous.
Yeah.
So there are not only are there no consequences to his actions,
There's awards.
life. Yes, there are
Literally.
there are tremendous amount of rewards for acting outrageously and acting out and causing a scene.
Yeah.
I remember he would be like, when we would go to a bar, he'd be like, all right, we're going to go in hot.
Yeah,
And we would
coming
go
in hot.
in, going hot. Remember that?
Coming in hot.
And you would come in laughing and telling jokes. And all
Yeah.
of a sudden, there's a fucking scene around you and everyone's watching. Everyone wants to know what you're laughing at. What's the
Yeah.
inside joke? We had 1,000,000 inside jokes. And no one would even know what the fuck our inside jokes were. And they're all laughing like we're a group of Richard Pryors and George Carlin. Like we're the funniest people in the fucking earth. And everyone wanted in on it. And so there's this whirlwind of drama surrounding his head like a spell, like something out of a witchcraft book. It consumed his life.
Yeah.
So it started to be now, okay, so Viva La Bam is over, right? So when we make Viva La Bam, that house is the centrifuge of excitement and drama. And there's 1,000,000 people around getting paid to produce the show. There's the art department building these big contraptions, these big, mechanical apparatuses that would, propel the storylines of Viva La Bam. There's producers, there's directors, there's cameramen, there's PAs getting you water. There's Novak causing trouble and making everyone's life a living hell. And we're traveling all over the world. And
everyone's getting paid.
Everyone's getting paid. Now,
Very handsomely, might I add.
Yeah, it was good. It was a great paycheck. It was great. It was so much fun to be able to create something with our friends. And then MTV decides they're going to change the branding, and it was still the #1 show. And they said, "Let's go out on top. We have enough shows. We can keep showing the reruns." And it all stops. And now, when he wakes up, rather than producers pounding on his door, begging him to get up so he could be in the shop because the cameras are ready, the house is quiet.
Yeah.
And it's empty and cold and lonely and desolate. That house, as exciting as it was when we made Viva La Bam, it could be the loneliest place in the world in the mornings after the bar,
And now with the show being gone, the circus hit the road, we're losing that drive. We're losing that momentum. We're losing that level of productivity that we used to possess. You know what I mean? Because no matter how fucked up, drunk, or hungover we were when we woke up, or if we didn't go to bed, the kind of mentality that we had, as skaters, as guys that were just extreme about everything, was like, let's do it. Let's power it out. Let's make it the best that it's ever been. Sober, not sober. Our heart was always in it.
Lay the hammer down.
Yeah. And
That's
we
what it was.
would all see who could outdo the other.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, there was a competition to be outrageous.
Yes.
I mean, even among the cameramen, there was like we would all jockey around getting who could get the best shot. And I always had the film camera, so I always had the 16 roll, and so I was like the man. And yeah, so it all comes to an end. And so there's a little hiatus before we began Bam's Unholy Union in 2007 or 2006.
But after that ends, right, Bam's still making the rules. He's still calling the shots. People still depend and rely on him. So,
and one by one, his true friends, who he became, who he came up with the ranks with, stopped coming around. Rab didn't want to have anything to do with it. I mean, and Rab speaks about this openly. He had his own demons to conquer. Ryan Dunn stopped coming around altogether. I mean, there were 3 years, I think about 2 years, a little more than 2 years, when Ryan never came around. He dreaded being around us, and during this time I'm making documentaries and films with Bam. So I'm with him all the time, producing more entertainment and stuff, but no Rab, no Dunn. Deco stops coming around, and one by one, Bam begins to replace these people with bottom-feeding, lecherous parasites. People who just wanted a piece. I mean, how many? I don't want to mention names. Brandon, but you know how many of Bam's friends would like accept money from his skating sponsors to like build him a ramp.
Yeah.
And then not build the ramp and take the $8,000.
Yeah.
And when you and me, as fucked up as you were, actually you weren't that bad. You were still branded at that point. You hadn't gone bye-bye yet. You weren't an asshole back then. But we would take Bam. We'd be like, Bam, so-and-so got paid $8,000 to build you a ramp, never built a ramp. Bam was like, well, it's not my money. It's like, but Bam, where's your common sense?
Yeah.
Like this person who you're supposed to be friends with just stole $8,000 from your sponsor, and you're supposed to get something out of that. And he was so unreceptive.
And I think because of the thinking, right? To that point, it looked like from the outside looking in, easy come, easy go. And I think because things were such in abundance, whether it was the money, the women, the drugs, the alcohol, the filming, excessive. And I was like, all right, if this doesn't pan out, the next thing will. Because it was always quick, fast, in a hurry. And everything we did seemed to be very, very successful. Mm-hmm. Or should I say BAM? You know?
Yes.
So like, all right. Well, and when you have 15, 20 major things going on, you hear this little sideline problem. It's like, all right, cool, but it's not mine, whatever, someone else's thing.
In the big picture, the $8,000 here and there don't matter.
Yes.
But
then those 8,000s add up.
Yes, he knew how money worked. Like he wasn't stupid when it came to money. He was very smart. I mean, there were times when we would do a shot for like a music video, and like rather than rent a camera rig, I would like buy an A-frame ladder and like ratchet strap it to the side of the car rather than spend $200 on a hostess tray setup for professional rig for the camera. And he would be so stoked that like we saved $150.
But then that way of thinking transitioned, right? Because you get this little kid who was never accepted, never invited, never in the cool circle. All of a sudden hits this new level of stature, if you will. And now he's the same kid who gets off on going to FC Kerback with no shirt on, a businessman's tie that he would wear around his neck, tied around his head like Tarzan, coming out of the woods with no shoes on, and walks in, him and I, and they take us up to the head guy's office, and he buys the purple Lamborghini. But it wasn't purple, it was a different color, and he has it all custom painted purple, rims included, and does not ask for $1 off.
He would not negotiate. That's the thing.
He got off on that.
When you go to the deal, yes, he would brag about that. When you go to a dealership, they mark the cars up.
Absolutely,
it's a negotiation. They build that into the price. They want the buyer to feel like they got a bargain.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I'll give you, 15% off. But they make it up. They give you the rust coat for the bottom and shit like that. The custom this and that. They do the extras. Bam would get off on going in there and buying a car, an automobile at full price.
Literally not asking for $1 off.
$200,000.
And then adding to it the custom paint where they take it off and they have to paint it hand by hand. Again, making a statement, leaving an impression, because not only did that happen, but I ended up fucking the girl who was bringing us in the drinks. and I'm just not bragging or boasting. I'm just simply trying to paint this picture of how absurd this whole thing just to make a statement.
Just to impress the guy, just to impress the fucking salesman.
The guy who would never accept him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the principal of his high school, basically.
Yes.
Like a fuck you to the man.
The authority figure, someone who would always look down on a scummy looking guy like him with no shirt.
Yeah.
He loved being able to go in there and buy a car full. I want that. Well, it's a lot of money. I want it. So we begin to. Okay, so we're going to go to a break, and we're going to pick up when Bam's life really took a negative turn when we did Bam's Unholy Union after this important break.
MBNnetwork.com. It's never been easier for you to find your new favorite podcast. Click the link at the top, pick a show, and pick a platform. It's really that easy. Thank you so much for the people that have been tuning in. Season finale week is next week. Might be news, relatable radio, might be sports, and might be tunes. Season finales. Thank you so much to everybody out there that's listening, from everybody here at the Might Be News Network. We thank you so much.
Hello, this is Joe Frantz for the Novak and Frantz Show on the Might Be News Network, with our, I guess, psychological profile of Bam Margera.
What's funny is that we're doing it.
Yeah.
More so me.
Yeah.
Because you get off on all this. Like,
Yeah, I do. I mean, I love psychology. I think it's it's wonderful science.
Well, I feel this is like what Bam used to do to Novak back at, like, telling everything Novak did so everyone would be aware of the situation.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. In a way, we've kind of come full circle with this. So, okay. So we are now at 2006. Bam is now an alcoholic, and he is now drugging on a constant basis. I remember, for example, there was a scene we shot on, backing up a little bit, on Viva La Bam, and the producers and the directors, each one came into the bath. Me and Bam were held up in his bathroom. He wouldn't let me leave, in the third floor bathroom. And he had some cocaine, and one by one, each producer and director of the show came in and begged him to come out and do the shot. And he would say, yeah, in a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit. And they were basically begging him, saying, hey, Bam, please, like, I got to send the crew home if we're not gonna film anything. Yeah, just hold on a second, and just enjoying the attention, enjoying the fact that people needed him. I mean, and I say this not because I'm trying to make him look like a power hungry asshole, because he wanted to be needed. Inside, he was still that child that never found acceptance. Yes.
Never invited, never accepted, never got the hot chicks in school.
Now people are begging him.
Now complete 180.
Yes. Grown men are begging him.
Yeah.
So we do Unholy Union. Now he's drinking all day. And you can tell when you watch the footage of that show. There are scenes of that show that he does not remember filming. I remember there was a scene that all he had to do, we had the whole scene in the can. And there was, I'm picturing in my head, maybe 15 people standing around, the writers, the cinematographers, the directors, the assistants, everyone standing around. All Bam had to do was deliver one line to Missy, pick her up, and walk off camera. And he could not deliver that line. And it was so frustrating and sad. And if you notice, who wasn't on that show? Ryan Dunn. And it wasn't because he was doing Homewrecker at the time. It was because he did not want to be a part of this world. So Jackass 2. By this time, when we did Jackass 2, Bam was a full-blown cocaine user on a daily basis. And in his head, he said, when Jackass 2 is over, I will stop. I need this to be productive, which is a frightening place. It's for someone to be in their addiction.
And then again,
telling themselves they have it marked on a calendar when they're going to stop.
Yeah. They're going to dictate the terms of how this thing is going to come to a head. And the reality is that, you said it, Franz, it's an alcoholic's brain 101. It's always tomorrow. As soon as we do this, as soon as I get here, as soon as we move there, as soon as she comes back, as soon as I get this job, this paycheck, then it happens. It's always tomorrow. And what happens is we wake up tomorrow and then we repeat yesterday's actions, and we're stuck in Groundhog's Day, for Bam's instance, the next 15, 20 years.
Mm-hmm. And so the side projects that we were doing, our music videos for CKY, our documentaries and videos for the band Him, our little side projects, our films, they all start to go away. And, now he has a little bit less. The money's not coming in like it was. I mean, he's still making tons of money, but the demand is going away. The demand
is drifting, yeah.
At one point, I think it was 2005, they had I'm not sure if it's still a measure of success, but they had what was called a Q rating. and Bam's Q rating dictated that he was the most popular male star in America.
I didn't know that.
At one point, yes.
Wow.
And he was, I forget what magazine it was. It was like one of those magazines that predicts like who's going to be the most, who's the most popular upcoming star at that time.
Right.
Bam was that guy. And so now it's starting to dissipate. And so we made the movie Ming Hags. And this is I want you all to listen carefully to what I'm about to say. Okay? Listen to this very carefully. When we made the movie Ming Hags, Bam was so loaded. And he speaks about this. I'm not talking shit. I'm not saying anything that hasn't been published. He speaks about this on the commentary of that film. He was doing cocaine every day, all day when we made that film and drinking. There were scenes of that film that he doesn't even remember doing. It was so difficult. Shooting that film was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I got fired from that movie 3 times, and I wasn't even getting paid. I was trying so hard to bring order from this chaos that was that movie Ming Hags, that when I would try and actually keep us on script, Bam would freak out on me and say, "You're fucking fired." I'm like, "Bam, you can't fire me. I'm not getting paid. What are you doing? Like, please, we have an obligation to get this film done." And he would shoot scenes that didn't make any sense. He would just make scenes up. And you got to understand, that film was very expensive to make. It cost Bam $600,000.
Need to feel productive.
Yes, he just needed to feel like he was doing something. And that film was surrounded by, again, I'm not going to mention names, but leeches and fucking parasites who were sucking him dry full of money. And he wouldn't even so much look at the budget because out of allegiance to his friends who were milking him for all this money, and it was so sick. And whenever I would try and tell him I was the villain, and I would sit with his parents and try and figure out the money, and Phil was getting very upset on a daily basis, but trying to hide it. Phil is very good at hiding his pain, and so the point is. This is very important. To this day, Bam says the reason he has an addiction problem is because of Ryan Dunn's death. And I'm here to set it straight and tell you that is a lie of an alcoholic. Because the first intervention that we had with Bam, Ryan Dunn was there. Bam, it was me, Ryan G, Jesse, Phil and April. Phil's crying, April's crying, Jess is crying. I mean, we're all there begging Bam to go into a rehab. And Bam's thing, and we had the rehab people there. Everything was ready to go. The room was set up. And Bam was so furious. He goes, "This better not be a fucking intervention. I'm not even drunk." And we were like, "Bam, you're not drunk now. You were drunk 3 hours ago. You just slept it off." And he was furious, and he went up, and Ryan Dunn was the one who walked up those stairs and came out of that room with Bam about 25 minutes later, and Bam said, "I'm ready to go." And what Ryan Dunn told him was, "Please, I've been to rehab. I needed rehab, and I saw when I had a problem. Please, do what these people are telling you. Just give it a shot." And for years, Bam has been telling everyone, he's been telling the world, he was so heartbroken when Ryan Dunn died. Oh, and his whole life fell apart, and that's when he began his substance abuse. That is an addict's lie to himself, because Ryan was there for that first intervention.
So now we're seeing this pattern develop that you're explaining very vividly, by the way, might I add. Thank you for that. I think you're painting a really good picture of the disease of alcoholism. And this pattern has emerged, and this pattern has always, what it boils down to is justification and deflection, sleight of hand type tricks, smoking mirrors, if you will. Everything, everyone else, please don't focus on my situation at hand. And let's say I do let you in momentarily long enough to see my situation at hand. Well, I'm going to fix it as soon as I finish filming this next project. As soon as we get this next show pitched or launched, and then I'm going to address it. But right now, it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so when he went into that rehab, he checked himself out within 2 days. And he made up a lie in his head that he probably believed. And the lie was when he went into that rehab, everyone was such a fan. And he went in there and the kid who we roomed with had a BAM skateboard and a BAM hat and a BAM, and BAM sneakers.
A piece of that might be true. Like he might have a t-shirt of a BAM shirt in there. Like that might be true.
Yes. And probably wanted to talk to him about,
sure.
Hey, I saw you on Viva La Bam.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
But that's not why you should be checking yourself out of the fucking rehab. But again,
justification and deflection on Bam's situation at hand that he created.
Yes.
Dictating the terms of how he's going to get better, which is a common theme in where we're going to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Bam always dictating the terms of how he will get better when he has put himself in these positions.
So now his life is consumed by even worse bottom feeders. By even the biggest scumbags in town are now the only people that can take this anymore and coming and living at his house and mooching off him. And I mean, one guy came over his house, sold one of his four-wheelers to a contractor came by the house. He's like, hey man, I'm selling this four-wheeler. You want it? And the guy took it home. and then it was fucking people were stealing so much money.
That was our old Coke dealer.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. That was like the living sometimes Coke dealer.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And you can hear now at the same time he's doing Radio Bam.
Yes.
And you can hear those horrible shows right around 2010. It's just him drunk telling the same story 3 times during one episode. It was painful. So I stopped I couldn't take it anymore.
Which is funny because you saying that now, I was caught up in my own addiction big time. And in my mind, I thought those shows were brilliant.
Is that true?
Yeah, in my mind, right? Because I was so delusional at that point in time that I thought these shows were fucking amazing. And why would they not want us? We are the best show on Sirius. I really believe that. And I think at point in times we were really good. I don't know how often that lasted, but.
So now Jackass 3 comes around. Bam makes himself the same promise, 2010, or was it 11? I forget. It would have been 2010, I believe. Jackass 3 we're making, and Bam makes himself the same promise he made himself 4 years prior with Jackass 2. As soon as this is done, I am done doing cocaine. I am absolutely fucking done. So those of you who have been following on social media have seen his posts and him getting arrested over the years. I remember the first time he was on TMZ. I believe it was when he overdosed on Adderall and he had to go to the hospital. And he took way too much. CJ, is this correct? This fact?
I can look it up. You tell it and I'll let you know.
Yeah, so I believe it's when he did way too much Adderall and ended up in the hospital. And when he got out, he said, dude, I made it on TMZ. And I was like, bam, TMZ is the thing celebrities don't want to be on. That it's tabloid.
Any press is good press.
Yeah, in his mind, any press is good press. And I'm like, TMZ is the publication that stars spend their entire careers avoiding.
Again, Bam's life, the more outrageous or outlandish his antics are, the more in demand he becomes.
And so Ryan Dunn dies, and of course it does negatively affect him. And I remember the night that Ryan died, we were all over Jess's house. And it was everyone who was very close to Ryan, all sharing our memories of him, trying to drown our sadness with a little bit of levity about all the funny Dunn memories there were. And Bam was insistent on going to a bar. He said, and we said, Bam, look, we have beer here. This is us. These are Ryan's close friends. And Bam said, no, there's a guy in town. He's having an event for the friends of Ryan Dunn. I got to be there. And we're like, Bam, we're with Ryan's friends. We're here. That fucking scumbag who owns that bar wants to make money off your dead friend and wants you there to get people there. Please. And Jess finally put his foot down. And he's like, Bam, you're not fucking going anywhere. We're not going to the bar. You're not going. You're going to stay here. And Bam finally gave up. He didn't want to face it. And that it did affect him in a lot of ways. From what I said before, I don't want to diminish what Ryan's death did to Bam.
We're just trying to recognize or allow people to recognize that the problem consistent
Yes.
before Dunn's passing.
Yes.
That's all that we're trying to do.
And Ryan's death affected us all greatly and deeply and in ways that we're still discovering when we see films and stuff with him in it. So as time goes on, Bam is on TMZ even more and more. Novak goes to jail. I
was in jail during the Dunn passing.
Yeah. And so Novak gets out of jail and Novak, you became worse than I've ever seen you. That's when you disappeared. That's when Brandon Novak was gone. There was a demon that had fucking taken your place for a couple of years. And Bam ends up, he goes to Iceland, starts a bunch of shit in Iceland, gets beat up by those rapper guys. He just, he's being arrested on TMZ.
Demand is fading.
Yeah. I mean, well, he was okay.
Managers are leaving
Here's
him.
what fucked up his career
Agents are taking
worse than
off.
anything. He was supposed to be in a movie. I don't forget what
I
it was.
remember that. I don't remember the movie, but I remember I was with him on the trip.
Yeah.
And he didn't go.
And it was Bam's manager who got him the gig, calling Bam, being like, Bam, there's a crew waiting for you to film. And remember, you were with him and he would not get on the fucking flight.
Yeah.
You guys kept getting drunk.
Yeah,
and
we
then
kept
missing the
partying
flights.
and absolutely. And he kept, I forget what, but he was specifically justifying why it was not important.
He didn't need those people.
Or it was like somebody in the movie, or they wanted him to do some dumb skate thing. Don't quote me, but it was something like that.
And
You know
the
what I
truth
mean?
is, Bam is agoraphobic. What agoraphobia is when you are afraid of crowds and people looking at you and the outdoors. There's a great deal of anxiety that overwhelms you in public. And Bam begins to suffer from this worse than ever. It had been years since, he had stopped skating contests years before that because he didn't want people staring at him. I remember we made this music video for CKY called A1 Roller Rager. And my mistake as a producer was there was a crowd scene. And I invited the crowd to stay and watch us make the rest of the video in case we needed extras. And Bam could not function when we made that video because he could feel them looking at him. That's when I realized it was a problem. So as time goes on, things, so back to the movie. So he missed being in the movie, and Hollywood,
They blacklisted immediately.
Yes, blacklisted. Yes, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. When you fuck over a union crew, word travels like lightning in that community. So now no one's inviting him to be part of their movie anymore. Someone who was just a few years prior supposed to be the top, the number one star in America, now can't even get in a movie. And
his drinking and drugging is at a full-time high.
So what we
demand is really fading.
And so let's now circle around to the present day and why he's at where he's at in an institution of behavioral health and mental health. So, Bam needs something, to keep himself busy and to stay productive and to, make a little money. We all need to make some cash, So, Bam has these great appearances at Comic-Cons, these conventions, where stars go to earn money and to reach out to their fans. And Bam he was having trouble doing these because, again, he's agoraphobic and it creates a great deal of anxiety for him to be the center of public attention.
And he's full-blown drinking and drugging, which means that he can't be responsible. He can't be dependable. He can't be honest. He can't show up on time. His behaviors are rather erratic, to say the best, and sporadic. You never know who you're going to get. It's truly a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. So therefore, just like him getting blacklisted from Hollywood for not being able to show up for that movie, he can't show up for these Comic-Cons. He does sometimes he doesn't. When he does, he's fucked up sometimes he's not, and he stays for 10 minutes. Either way, there's no normality to what he's supposed to do, and they get tired of it. Not tired enough to tell him he can't come, but people are just getting tired of it. And now the people that are taking him to these things are lower and lower on the totem pole, right? Yeah. Now he's in this whole different realm of bottom feeders because they're the only ones that will deal with him because they don't have anyone else to deal with.
Well, he was also supposed to be sober at this time too, so he would hide the drinking.
Right. Oh, yes. Let's circle back. So he had his DUI, which Novak, you were there for.
Yes.
Describe. So what year was this timeline for the DUI? When was that, CJ?
I'm talking previous DUI, but the DUI, what was that?
Well, the one he recently had in California was about a year and some change ago.
Okay, so we're talking late 2017, right around there?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were there that night when he got his DUI. What happened, Brandon?
Yeah, we're out in California, and we were out there doing some stuff with Element, and we drove into LA to Hollywood the night to see like some of the guys, and then we were there partying, and we were going to drive back to like near where Johnny, the owner of Element, lived. But then Bam started getting really drunk and wanted to stop somewhere before we got back to Johnny's. When we stopped where we were stopping, he wanted to grab his bag, and when he went in to get his bag, he started drinking a bottle of whatever it was. And me and my friend Mitchell, we're like not drinking. We want to go, and we're like, we're not going to sit here and watch you drink this whole bottle till 5 a.m. This is retarded. We're getting an Uber. You can come or you can stay. Bam opts to stay. The people at the house say, okay, we'll keep an eye on him. He can stay here. In the morning when he wakes up and sobers up, he can just drive back to meet you guys. Long story short, somewhere along the line that night, he decides in the middle of drinking, he has to go. He up and runs out of the house, jumps into his car, and then you get him with a DUI.
Gets pulled. Yeah, so he gets pulled over, ends up in like a Compton jail. Like it was bad. And he's on the phone with Phil, his father, saying, "Get me the fuck out of here now.
You have 4 hours to get me out.
Me out of here." And Phil's like, "I'm in Westchester. I'm not there. I don't know what. I'm trying to make calls. I'm trying to do my best." And Bam's like, "Dude, you better fucking do this. Like the world doesn't work like that, Bam. You're not in control anymore."
But he has been since day one.
Yes.
Right? Literally since 12 years old, he's been in control of everything. Everyone around him. People depend and rely on him. Now, for the first time, he's ended up in a jail cell.
And then Vice TV made that special about him.
Yes.
And for some reason, he convinced the world that he was sober. He's like, "I'm sober now. I'm okay. And like I had the DUI. I'm all right now. And
now I can just drink occasionally."
He was not sober. Everyone says that he was doing so good for so long. He was doing so bad, and no one could talk sense into him. And he would tell you, you would see him drunk. He'd be like, "Dude, all I do is sip beers." It's like, I'm looking at your eyes and I'm seeing you're doing a hell of a lot more than fucking drinking. Yeah. I can tell you're doing a lot more than sipping beers. You're doing a lot more than guzzling vodka.
Now there's like serious Adderall in play, lots of sniffing of blow. And then somewhere along the line, he's picked up to like graduating to crystal meth, right? Like that's another icing on this cake, is that he's into meth these days.
And no one can talk sense into him. He's always right.
And God forbid anyone say that out loud, because no, don't say that.
Yeah.
Fuck. I believe that's partially the reason why we're at today, is because everyone wants to sweep this under the rug.
And he was free of consequences.
Which exactly, when there's no repercussions to our actions, meaning drinking and drugging, why the fuck do we stop?
Now he had enablers in his life. Very unfortunately, the thing about enablers is, unfortunately, they're very selfish people. And I don't mean that by selfish, they are evil or bad. You can be selfish and be a very beautiful and loving person and mean and really want the best for the people in your life who you are enabling. But you are only able to see, you are blinded by what the person really needs. You are only seeing your own need to act now to help, to do what you think is helping that person, to end the drama that's happening here and now without looking at the big picture. So Bam is still free of consequences, even though he feels he's free of consequences, but he's not. Everything is getting worse and worse. Again, he's at the point now, he's not getting movie offers. He's not going to get a fucking other TV show. At this point, he also did Bam's Badass Game Show, was a complete failure.
That flopped.
The reviews of that, I remember I read one review and it said, "It looks like Bam can't wait for filming to stop so we can continue drinking and drugging." And I was like, holy fucking shit, if that ain't the sad truth.
So now some repercussions from his actions are starting to set in.
But in his mind, They're not.
No, it's still everyone else.
Because he's surrounded by enablers.
And look, this isn't Bam specifically that we're fucking picking on. We're breaking down the disease of alcoholism and addiction.
That's right.
And this just Bam is the topic of this conversation.
Yeah, well, I mean, we love him so much, which is one of the reasons why, I just feel the need to talk about this and, set the record straight a bit, because there's so many rumors. And so Steve-O, who has years sober now, is doing great doing these comedy tours. So Bam begins to get offers to do comedy shows. And Bam is drunk when he's convinced by certain people in his life to do these comedy shows, and Bam signs up. Well, it takes a hell of a lot of work and discipline and practicing to do a comedy show. So they actually did something very smart. They turned it into an open mic Q&A.
But to this point, the demand of Bam has diminished.
Yeah.
Right? It's not really, no one really gives a fuck that much anymore. So he's replaced that drive with wanting to be productive with full-on drugs and alcohol. Therefore, his disconnection from reality is like really big. The abnormal has become the normal for Bam. And now he really is unpredictable and unreliable. Mm-hmm. So thinking that you're going to get any sensible dealings with him is slim to none, and Slim's out of town.
Yeah. And so those of you who've seen his very recent Instagram posts, which many have been since deleted. Now, this has all happened in the past week, and I'll sum up. Bam was scheduled to do a comedy tour. He was fucked up. He was scheduled to do 2 comedy shows in one night in New York City. Was fucked up beyond belief. Again, I'm just giving you the Reader's Digest version. He ended up getting in a fight with his wife, sent her home. She got almost home. He told her to come back to New York. He's broadcasting very cruel and mean Instagram posts on video, calling his wife a street hoe and demeaning her and saying she has to come back. So he shows up, he misses the first show and shows up right on time to go on after they canceled the show because they didn't know he was showing up. He shows up just in time to go on, freaks out that there's no one there. They canceled the show. Berates his manager. I believe it looks like he punched him while the camera was turned for a little bit. It looks to me like he punched his manager in the face. I could be wrong.
Yeah, he did.
Because it was off camera.
Yeah, he definitely did.
You can't really see it in the video, but you can. You see something.
I've seen other angles where you see him hit him.
Okay. Well, so now Bam gets home and he's going to do what I believe he normally does, which is I've actually brought him camping one time so he could detox, and I've watched him do it. He gets so fucked up and then he'll sleep for 3 days, and I think that's what he's going to do at this time. But he doesn't. He's up having these crazy posts, throws a chair through a door in his house, breaks the door, and then he put out a post of him in his vehicle with a busted windshield with Chinese food noodles all over the dashboard, yelling "Succubus 616" in an angry, deranged voice, and I had seen enough. I called Novak. I said, Novak, should I 302 this motherfucker? And to me, it wasn't a decision. Like, you know how they say, oh, that must have been a hard decision. It was no decision. It was something that I knew needed to be done. But I just wanted to check to see if I was doing the right thing. Novak was like, please, Frantz, 302 him. I'm going to get some recovery people on the phone. Let's get him help. And so between his family and luckily the people Brandon was able to call, and when I was on the phone with those cops and police, as much trouble as Bam has caused for them lately with these parties and stuff that he's been, with this party idea that he threw, and this new party that he wants to have, he's been giving them a bunch of shit on publicly on Instagram. But cops and police were so nice and so understanding, and they really wanted to help him and make sure he was okay. And so we got Bam where he needs to be right now. And so what should people take away from this, Brandon? Like I'm trying to draw a conclusion.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. What I would like people to understand is that, and I always say this, but the disease of addiction does not discriminate. It doesn't care who you are, how much money you have, where you come from, what gender you are, what your religious background is. It does not matter. I just want you to take heed to this cautionary tale, because the same guy that's in this position right now was the same guy that got me out of the position that he finds himself in. Mm-hmm. He was my saving grace for years and years and years. And now the shoe is totally on the other foot. And it can happen to anybody, anywhere, at any time.
This is the story of an insecure kid who didn't have any money when he was coming up, made a big success of himself, hated drugs and alcohol. He despised the very idea. Like I said at the beginning of the show, when he first heard that Rab got drunk for the first time, he punched him in the face. Someone who was so against getting fucked up, who wanted to be productive, who looked at people who did drugs and alcohol as complete fucking losers. And he ends up in this situation. And if it could happen to him, it could happen to anybody. And it happens to so many people.
And if you're out there struggling and you think that, like, as soon as I get this next job, as soon as I get this next paycheck, as soon as I get this woman, I move to this state, then things will align and it will get better. It happens to anybody. It can happen to everybody. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from.
Yeah, Bam's story is unique, but it's very
the ending's the same.
It's very common.
The story very unique. The ending is the same.
Yeah. So it's someone who has been an addict for years and years, and who has been in complete denial and has been afraid to seek help.
Yeah.
Addiction is, and I believe this is something that you say in your speeches, Novak, that if you had cancer, you'd go and get the cancer treatment. If you had a cold, you'd go and get the flu medicine. But if you're an addict, you say it. You know how to say it.
I always say that, if you're diagnosed with the disease of addiction, this is factual evidence. It is not debatable. If you're diagnosed with that disease left untreated equals death, right? It's a fatal disease from which we possess. When it is left untreated, in Bam's case, left untreated, you die if it continues in that route. But it's the only disease from which I possess that is fatal, and it tells me that I don't have a disease on a daily basis, and it lies to me in my own voice, which makes me believe the unbelievable. Diagnosed me with HIV, I'm rushing to the hospital to get medication. I don't want to die. Fatal disease. Diagnosed me with cancer, I'm rushing to the hospital to get chemo. I don't want to die. Fatal disease. Diagnosed me as an addict or an alcoholic. I need a glass of wine or a bag of heroin to figure out what the fuck's wrong with you for diagnosing me with said disease. Just as fatal as the first two diseases, but left to my own devices, I'll believe that voice that lies to me in my own voice that comes from my own brain that tells me I don't have a disease, and I'll get up from this microphone and I'll go buy more heroin.
So we're all praying for Bam, and what he needs is to, when he's done in this facility in a week or however long it takes, he needs 90 days of treatment. If he does not go into that, I give him a year. He will probably, if he keeps on this path, if he keeps doing what he's doing and lying to himself and living the life he's leading, yeah, he might go for a week without drinking. I've seen him do that. Then he'll have a glass of wine and he'll say, look, I'm normal. I can drink like a normal person. Then 2 days later, he's drinking 3 glasses of wine and taking a 6-pack to go. The next week, he's drinking his vodka. Then the next week, it's back to the hard drugs. And I'm telling you,
you can't smoke meth successfully.
Yeah.
Just doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's not. So he will be dead in a year if he doesn't go into treatment.
It's not a matter of if we'll be in this position again. It's simply when we'll be in it again. If he doesn't continue with the continuum of care.
And I pray that his family is strong enough to do the right thing and make sure that they do not enable him and they do not accept him if he doesn't stay in that 90-day rehab and begin his journey to good mental health. He needs a lot of help. He needs a lot of prayers and support from the fans, and just, if you're in Westchester and you happen to see him and he's at a bar or whatever, do not drink with him. Turn your back on him. And
hence the point of this show. Do not enable or condone his behaviors. His true friends like us, we will not let this disease fester, grow, and manifest. We are exposing it, and we will not enable or justify his behaviors. Why? Because he did not do that for me. He did not do that for Frantz. And I believe because he didn't do that for me, I now stand here today with coming up on 4 years of continuous sobriety, and I will do whatever it takes to help him, just like he did for me.
And I apologize if I've rambled on this show or gone on too long or repeated the same things, but I'm very, very, very upset. And I thank you so much for listening. This is the end of season 1 of the Novak and Frantz show. And if you need help, or someone who needs help, or if you're an addict or your friend's an addict, you have someone in your life who's an addict, Novak, please give them your personal number.
Yeah, that is 610-635-9092. If you suffer with drug or alcohol dependency or mental health disorders, feel free to reach out to me or contact my facilities directly, and they are BanyanTreatmentCenter.com.
All right. That said,
I just want to say something real quick. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yep.
Like Joe said, this is the season finale of the Novak and Frantz show. I just want to thank everybody for listening over the past 13 weeks of doing this. And I want to thank everybody here at the table for doing this. It's been great. We've covered a lot of ground this season. Mel Gibson tapes is one I remember vividly. We've taken a lot of great phone calls. So thank you to everybody who's called in and commented on things and shared the show and everything. Just thank you so much for listening. It's been great.
Yeah. And, if you like an autographed copy of Dream Seller or our graphic novel, The Brandon Novak Chronicles, CJ, where do they go?
BrandonNovak.com.
You go to BrandonNovak.com, go to the store, and all those are personally autographed by hand. It's not rubber stamped. Also, to see the CKY videos now currently released in HD streaming video, go to watchdctv.com. That's Danger Cats TV. They were nice enough to fund the project, and they will be streaming CKY HD for a while. So thanks again for listening. We love you all so much, and we'll see you next season.
God bless.